Do you want to learn how to learn something faster and remember that for a long time? Here is the solution, the Feynman technique. So stay with me till the end of this video to understand the 4 steps of this technique. Hello everyone, welcome to Top 5% Club. Before we begin with Feynman technique, subscribe to Top 5% Club. Click on that link right now and subscribe to Top 5% Club. So let's start with Feynman technique. This happens with everyone. You take a book, you start studying, you read for a while, and if someone asks you what you've read, you can't even able to explain that. You don't understand that. You don't remember that for a long time. What is the reason for that? Now you may say this happens to you most of the time, and this happens mostly during you are learning something new or during your exam period. And many people, even after studying for long hours, always will be confused whenever you try to learn something and you can't remember it after a short time. Then it would be the best idea to change the way you learn or change the way you study something. There is this quote of John Wooden and it goes like this: "You have not taught until they have learned." What this means is nobody can teach you anything without understanding that topic for themselves. There is another quote that is often credited to Albert Einstein and it goes like this: "If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough." A combination of these two quotes explains us that you can't teach anything or explain it simply without your understanding. And this observation we witness in our everyday life. We often meet people who have no idea what they talk about. They just beat around the bush and try to say something. And this happens because they have no understanding of that topic or what they were talking about. If you can't explain something, there is a chance you do not understand it well. And in the process of explaining it briefly and accurately, you will be learning more about it. Remember this sentence, and that's why the insight of these both quotes are solid and robust. Now, if you want to learn about something, read about it. If you want to understand something, write about it. And if you want to master something, teach it, explain it. And that is the fundamental idea behind the Feynman technique. This technique, named after the Nobel Prize winning physicist Richard Feynman. 1965 Nobel Prize winner Richard Feynman, a theoretical physicist, is known as one of the best scientists in the world. The man was genius. Not only he had an ability to understand complex information, but he also had distinctive and rare talent of breaking down sophisticated concepts into a simple explanation. For this distinctive ability, Feynman was given the nickname the Great Explainer. Feynman believed that one of the best ways to study is if you take what you learn and simplify it as if you are explaining it to others who are unfamiliar with the idea. You will quickly be able to see where your weaknesses lie. The goal is to learn by explaining in simple, digestive language that 4th standard student can even understand. I will repeat this. The goal is to learn something simple, digestible language that even 4th standard student can even understand. But if you can't simply explain and teach the concept, then you do not understand it well enough. I observe many times many students spend hours in the library to lousy results. Even after putting a lot of efforts, they don't get the results that they expect. And many people give up on learning process because they think it's too complex. But there is a solution, and that solution is called the Feynman technique. You can use this technique to understand an idea in 20 minutes deeply that will stick with you for years. Yes, I'm saying it, years. So now let's see what the Feynman technique is so that you can use it in your own studies to learn something better and faster. It doesn't matter that what subject you are learning or what field you are trying to get into. The Feynman technique is here to help you, just 4 simple steps. Though Richard Feynman was Nobel Prize winning scientist who used this technique, it's not that this technique is only applicable to the people with high IQ. But in reality, anyone can use this technique, and I'm going to show you how. Step number 1, put it on paper. So the first step of Feynman technique is to write down the concept you wish to learn and then record everything you find related to that topic. So for me, when I learn about something new, I take a piece of paper, I write down everything that I already know about that subject on that paper, and I think of every tiny piece of information that I can recall about that subject or that I have learned about that topic in the past. So the step number 2 is pretend you are teaching the idea to 4th grade student. Now in the first step, you learned something and you have written it on the piece of paper. So in this step, do the explanation. Do the explanation as if you are teaching someone who doesn't have even understanding of that subject. Explain the concept using your own words. Use plain, simple language. Don't just limit yourself to tell the definition. And while explaining, add 1 or 2 examples related to the subject to make sure that you can apply that concept into the real life, or you can just correlate that concept to the real life experiences. This step is significant because while explaining it on the paper or explaining it to yourself or explaining it to someone else, the idea that you already understand as well as the ones you do not understand, you get a better understanding and you pinpoint precisely the detail you do not understand. So the step number 3 is identify your knowledge gaps. Now in the first step, you learned something and you have written it on the piece of paper. Now in the second step, you try to explain it, but don't worry if you get stuck while practicing the step number 2. You are just starting to learn, so it won't come to you immediately. You need a practice, and this is the point where real learning happens. What you are missing, what you don't know, review the explanation that you came up with and pinpoint the areas where you were not clear and you felt your explanation was unstable. And this is where you can learn better and remember that concept for a long period of time. And while explaining, whenever you get stuck, go back to the reference material, lectures, books, teachers' assistants, reread, relearn that topic until you get enough to explain it on the paper or explain it to someone else. For me personally, after I finish the book, I summarize the key messages and stories from that particular book on the piece of paper to know that how much understanding I have about that book. And this is sort of explaining 200 plus pages into few simple brief sentences. This is the reason I feel, this is the important reason why I have improved my retention from the book. Now the step number 4 is simplify it even more and use analogy for greater clarity of the subject. Now this is the advanced step. You have learned something, you have written it on the paper, you tried to explain, you got your mistakes, you rectified those mistakes. But now while explaining, whenever you create a wordy or confusing explanation, try to either simplify the language or make an analogy to understand it better. For example, if you are explaining the reaction, try to connect with your real life example so that even you miss the reaction, you relate it to the event and then it becomes easier to recall that reaction. Do this not only for reaction but all other material that you are learning. And to do this, you will want to use simple terms when you write the ideas or concept in your own words. If you try to use complex and subject-specific words, it confuses people and urges them to stop paying the attention. Replace technical terms with simpler words and think of how you could explain this lesson to a child or 4th year grade. Now, do not look at this technique to memorize something. If you are trying to memorize something, this is not the technique to use, guys. The Feynman technique is more about giving yourself that aha moment when you finally put all the pieces together to understand that concept. Now the question you may have in your mind is, does this Feynman technique works? This 4-step process of the Feynman technique is as simple as it sounds. If you use it regularly, you will get better at it. And this one technique, guys, is equivalent to 1,000 small techniques and it is as effective as it sounds. The Feynman technique will help you to break down the complexity of the lessons into easily understood points. It doesn't matter whatever you are learning or studying, you can grasp the topic quickly. As you can grasp the ideas and concept quickly, no matter how complex they are, your understanding and academic performance will definitely show an improvement. By constantly practicing the Feynman technique, you will be able to develop good learning habits that will improve the effectiveness of your time hitting the books. Thank you everyone. Thanks for watching this video, and if you haven't already, click on that subscribe button and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Until next time my friends, start today for better tomorrow and take action now and be legendary.